Welcome back. All right, so on August the 12th, I did a ranking of number 3 draft picks from 2007 through 2022. And today I thought, you know what? Why don't I do the number 4 draft pick? Like I've been thinking about it like, number 4, there are some key guys here and it might be kind of fun to come up with a ranking. And again, you guys can let me know your thoughts on this. I just thought, hey, we're into the preseason a little bit. It's not really fully going yet. And of course, we're all waiting for the regular season, so why not go ahead and dive in and do a list video? So at number 16, and what's interesting is how many times 2012 is at the bottom of this list, and the New York Islanders. And this one sucks because Griffin Reinhart. I was really excited for Griffin Reinhart coming up because I was a huge Paul Reinhart fan. And so seeing that his kids were coming up, Max, Sam, and Griffin, Griffin had a lot of hype. And he was a defenseman. He was the only one of the three that played on the blue line. So I was very much a big fan of, hey, if another Reinhardt could come in and if he plays anywhere near as well as his dad did. And it just didn't work out at the NHL level for Griffin. So he ends up 16th on the list. And it's kind of one of those things that I wish it had gone different. Number 15. From 2007, so what I remember from the 2007 draft was when the LA Kings drafted Thomas Hickey. I do believe Thomas Hickey was ranked a lot lower than fourth, and it was kind of a bit of a surprise. And the Kings were reaching a bit. Hickey did play in the NHL. He was good at points, but in relation to other players on this board, he ends up lower down the list. And so, yeah, Thomas Hickey ends up being a bit of a reach on draft day that doesn't quite pay off for the Kings. But the Kings around that era were getting some pretty good draft steals as well. So if you have one guy that you draft early that doesn't work out, that's okay because you got all these other draft picks as well. Number 14, and I went back and forth on this one a little bit. So this one is from 2016. Don't get ahead of me. It's not nice. It's not nice to get ahead of me. So I was thinking this one over and like, okay, so Jesse Puljujarvi from 2016. Again, at the time he was drafted, unlike Hickey, I thought the Oilers got a steal at 4 with Puljujarvi. It didn't ultimately work out there. He's bounced around a little bit since then. He had a hat trick for the Penguins in a preseason game the other night, so we'll see if Puljujarvi ends up being a regular for the Penguins or what happens this season. But at this point, I felt like 14th was the best spot for him. I really hope that he's able to turn things around and start to realize some of that potential. But it's 8 years since his draft year. The odds are not in his favor, which is why I opted to put him at 14. And at 13, I'm putting the 2022 pick, and that's Shane Wright. Shane Wright looked pretty good last season for Seattle in the games that he did play. Looked pretty good in Coachella Valley as well. Coachella Valley goes all the way to the final again. And so I'm putting Shane Wright ahead of Puljujarvi. I do believe that Shane Wright has the potential this season to be a 20-plus goal scorer for Seattle. If he plays the full season, he should be in the 40-plus point range. And so for that reason, I feel like Wright ahead of Puljujarvi makes some sense. I cannot put him higher than 13th on this list, but 13th to me feels like the right spot for him. Number 12, from 2019. This is an interesting one because injury has caused this player to be ranked lower than I think he otherwise would have been. Bowen Byram, of course, was drafted by Colorado. He's now in Buffalo. When Byram was drafted, what I saw was people saying that between Makar and Byram, they have the potential to have two of the best defensemen in the league on the blue line at the same time. The expectation was Byram was going to be a big minute-munching defenseman, and that having him, Makar, Taves, it just wasn't going to be fair to the rest of the NHL. Now, Byram's moved on to Buffalo. He's now with Power and Dahlin. If all three of those guys hit, Buffalo, and I don't mean like physically going out and hitting, I just mean if they hit their totals that they could, that Buffalo team could be fantastic from the blue line. One of the best producing teams from the blue line, but Byram ends up being lower because he's had injuries which have limited his success at the NHL level at this point. He does have a cup ring though. And then next up on the list, number 11 from 2021. And he was actually one of the Calder finalists this past season. And that's Luke Hughes. The third Hughes brother. The second that I've had on a list in this series. I don't think I'm getting down to Quinn Hughes' spot, but who knows? If this video does well, I may very well go to number 5, number 6, and beyond. Get it done before the season starts. Go all the way through to the 7th round. Screw it. We're going to go like, the best 146th draft pick from 2007 to 2022. That could be an interesting video because I don't know. I just picked that number at random. Maybe nobody at that pick has actually made it to the National Hockey League, but Luke Hughes has. But 1 year, and that's the thing. Luke Hughes, it's one full season under his belt. It is hard to rank him higher than 11th. He will be higher in this ranking, I would think, by next summer, should I do this one again. At number 10, and this one was tough too. So going back to 2009, and yes, I will use any excuse to get an Atlanta Thrashers magnet onto the board. But in 2009, Atlanta drafts Evander Kane. Evander Kane, if not for all of the issues he's had on and off the ice, if not for like legal difficulties and you name it, if Evander Kane had not had the controversies in his career that he has, I think he'd probably be higher up on the list. There's just this unpredictability with Kane from 1 year to the next. His talent has never been in question. There's never been any question of his talent level. It's there. It's that intensity. It's how often you see that. Are there going to be other issues? And so I end up ranking him 10th. On pure talent, I think I could put him in the top 6. But just for his career at this point, I'm like, nah, he's going to have to be 10th. At 9th, another New Jersey magnet on the board. And from 2011... Adam Larsson. Now, what's interesting is, with Larsson, he was expected to be a minute-munching, probably top 2 defenseman. It took a long time for him to get to, I would say arguably what he is in Seattle right now is what was envisioned when he was drafted, but it has taken a while for him to get there. The trade to Edmonton, maybe the expectations were different with Edmonton, but he's I can't say bounced around because he's only been with 3 different teams, but he's definitely found a home in Seattle. And at the time that he left Edmonton, it looked like he had probably found a home in Edmonton. So his last year in Edmonton was pretty darn good. He's been excellent for Seattle. And so to me, Adam Larsson at number 9 makes some sense. That's why I have Larsson ahead of Kane. I think if you're looking at the body of their careers, I would put Larsson ahead of Kane. Reliable, really good defenseman, and still coming into this season, very likely to be quite prominent on maybe an underrated Seattle team. Number 8, from 2014, Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett, of course, now in Florida. Another one of those players that's not with the team that originally drafted him. Bennett in Florida is the player that I think Calgary really was hoping he would be on the regular. He was that player in Calgary during playoffs and during really important games, but he would take other nights off and just that intensity wasn't there every night. And in Florida, we're seeing that. Yes, he does ride the line. Yes, there have been hits and moments where it looks like he's crossed the line. And I understand that there are people who don't like him for that, but I have to respect the player. I don't necessarily respect the tactics at all times, but yeah, Sam Bennett to me belongs at number 8 on the board. This is where the debate comes in with Kane. I think, Bennett, Stanley Cup winner, top 6 forward, and yeah, to me, number 8's the right spot for him. Number 7, from 2010. Ryan Johansson. So Ryan Johansson, of course, right now dealing with contract termination from the Philadelphia Flyers. I think when you look at the body of his career, he's had some excellent seasons. And if this is the end of his career, it's been a good career and make an interesting career video if/when that day comes for him, if it's soon. But yeah, Johansson, I think, has given a pretty honest effort throughout. He's made good money. And again, Johansson's a player that his career may very well be, if not done, then getting close to that. Maybe he never plays a full season again. It'll be interesting to see if/when they appeal that contract termination from Philadelphia, what happens. But Johansson at 7 felt right to me. At 6, player he was traded for from 2013, Seth Jones. Seth Jones is a player who right now with Chicago has a very expensive contract. And that gets focused on. Kind of reminds me of Darnell Nurse away in that they're both paid very, very well. And in both cases, their game isn't necessarily lining up with their cap hit. But Seth Jones is still an effective top 4 defenseman. I understand that he may very well be overpaid. I understand, too, that he has his defensive miscues, but still the offense is there. We'll see if his numbers come up a little bit. Playing on a Chicago team that should score more this year, should be a little bit better. His numbers should improve. Everybody's numbers in Chicago kind of has to improve because they really can't get much worse than what we saw this past season. Number 5. From 2008, so one of the earlier draft picks on the list. And for St. Louis, he's not in St. Louis anymore, of course. He was captain of the Blues at one point, and that's Alex Pietrangelo. Of course, he's in Vegas now. Signed that big money contract with Vegas, and Pietrangelo has 2 cup rings, one with St. Louis, one with the Vegas Golden Knights, and has quietly put together a very, very solid career. And we might be able to argue Hall of Fame at some point if he plays long enough, and especially if he were able to get that 3rd cup ring, whether it was in Vegas or somewhere else, and if he plays a key role in that, it might put him over the top in terms of Hall of Fame speculation and probabilities. But at any rate, Pietrangelo, excellent career for him. Again, drafted 4th overall in 2008 by the Blues, and gave them about a decade worth of excellent hockey along the way. Number 4. And I'm already going to put him at number 4 because I have to be honest here. I think Lucas Raymond, I think we've just started to see what he can do. He had an excellent season with Detroit last season, and I think his numbers are only going to go up. Yes, absolutely, you could switch Pietrangelo and Raymond if you want to do that. Go right on ahead. For me, I like Raymond at the number 4 spot. If you're going to say, well, Petrangelo's got more track record, sure, fine. For me with Raymond, I feel like his star has just started to rise a bit, and I think that's going to continue, and that the contract that he just signed in Detroit probably ends up looking like a bargain 2-3 years down the road. And again, it's possible that it's not. That's where the speculative contracts are right now. I've talked about this before. Now GMs pay you for what you're going to do. They used to pay you for what you've done. And when you're paying somebody for what they're going to do, you never know what's going to happen. It's possible that some of those contracts end up aging poorly. But I think Raymond's is going to be a good one. Number 3. I'll pick that up after. From 2018, Ottawa Senators draft, Brady Tkachuk. Brady Tkachuk, excellent forward, team captain. I'm hoping he stays out of the penalty box a little bit more this upcoming season, scores a couple more goals, gets a few more points, and maybe helps Ottawa finally get back into the playoffs for the first time since, I don't know, it feels like 1920 or something like that, the last time they were in the playoffs. I'd like to see Brady Tkachuk, emulate his brother a little bit. The success Matthew Tkachuk's had in recent seasons has been great, and I think Brady Tkachuk has every bit of talent that his brother has too. It's just sometimes I think it's a matter of focus, but we'll see how this season goes for him. I have him number 3 on the list. Number 2, from 2015, and man, one of the biggest talking points right now basically online in hockey circles, but especially if you get anywhere near Toronto circles, Mitch Marner and what his next contract would look like. Should it be in Toronto? Are they supposed to trade him? What's going to happen? No matter what happens, Mitch Marner's one of the most productive forwards in the NHL. Over the last 5 years, he's been very predictable, and predictable in a good way. And I think that if they do end up trading him, I think it could backfire badly. Marner's one of the best passers in the National Hockey League, and I don't think he's the problem in Toronto, because I don't think there's just one problem. I don't think. Okay, I'll put it this way: the issue in Toronto, I don't think, is necessarily just, well, that core four can't do it. There's been more of a building that team around them problem. There's been a depth scoring problem, and if Marner goes somewhere else, it could backfire very, very quickly. The one that it reminds me of, sort of, and it's completely different, but when Larry Murphy left Toronto and ended up in Detroit, and I remember all the Murphy's all washed up anyways, yeah, he's never gonna, and then Detroit wins the Stanley Cup with him. So if Marner gets moved to a contending team, look out, because Marner is an excellent forward. That being said, number one on the list, which will not surprise people, won't surprise them at all. And the reason that I'm wearing an Avs jersey, and yes, if you want to say, well, the Avs jersey gives it away, sure. But who else was it going to be? Cale Makar, I still think is the best defenseman in the game right now. I think that we're just starting to see what he's going to be able to do. I think that his overall game is probably a bit underrated, because people get caught up with his offensive numbers. And the reality is he's pretty good at his own end too. And so, yeah, I'm going to put Makar at number one. But you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I know people do, and they will, and they always shall. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you haven't done so already. And again, if this one does well, I have no problem with going through other numbers too. I just thought, number 4, there are some pretty good picks in the number 4 draft spot. And so why not do a video where I talk about number 4 draft picks? So here we are. Thank you guys so much for all your support. If you haven't already hit like and subscribe, please do. Thanks again for everything. I will talk to you guys soon.